Phone line still open here on SportsLine, 737-7767. Welcome more of your phone calls. Off to a good discussion so far tonight. We'll continue that discussion now with our buddy Keith Bullock, former Titans linebacker, Mr. Monday Night himself, looked at the Titans defense. What went wrong? And the one thing that stood out as a huge positive, especially in light of the injury to Harold Landry. We got to that in Bullock's breakdown on Sunday night on the Electric Power Company's Sunday Sports Central. Keith back in here at the smart screen for Bullock's breakdown. The defense was supposed to be one of the best in the league this year, Keith, especially against the run. So how was Barkley able to dice him up?
Well, as you'll see in these clips, they were just out of their gaps, and actually a lot of times not even coming into their gaps, sometimes even creating gaps. But against a back like Saquon Barkley, you need to be where you're supposed to be. You need to come downhill, attack blockers, be where you're supposed to be, come downhill. Right here's the safety, fill the hole. It's the first game of the season, but Saquon came out on a mission, and he was running like it was the second half of the season. Another one. We need our linebackers to come downhill, shock the blockers, condense those holes to clear up those running lanes, and that will not allow the running back to get out there with all those space. So it's going to have to work in practice this week, talking about coming downhill, shocking blockers, not jumping around blocks to close up those running lanes to allow the whole defense to play.
Too many holes against the run. Now, there was some good from the defense, though, and that would be the pass rush. In the absence of Harold Landry, they still got 5 sacks.
Yeah, the way that they came out, Big Jeff obviously set the tone. You see Buddy Dupree get in there for that one. But obviously, to me, I saw Jeffrey Simmons in the backfield against the run, against the pass right here. He gets a sack. He just put the defense on his back when it was passing downs. And that's a great thing to see because, like you said, without Harold Landry, you don't know how the pass rush was going to be. And, look, I think that they were clicking just like they were last year against Cincinnati, the last game they played.
Young Rashad Weaver had a day as well with 2 sacks for the rookie. Yeah, I guess technically Weaver, second-year player, but he feels like a rookie because he broke his leg last year and wasn't available pretty much for the entire season. Back healthy now, and we saw it in the preseason. He has an ability to rush the passer. You saw it again against the Giants with those 2 sacks on Sunday. If he can give you that type of a level, even not for full-out reps, he's not going to play as many reps as Harold Landry would have, but if he can give you that type of pressure across from Bud Dupree, who I think is going to have a monster year, and with Jeffrey Simmons up front, this still has the ability for the Titans to have a very potent pass rush. And if you can affect quarterbacks, you give yourself a chance in the game. That's what the Titans could not do for so long. When I got here, and this is my 12th season covering the team, they could not rush the passer to save their life. From 2010 or so to 2019, 2020, this was a team without a pass rush. It was really last year where it started to take hold. Jeffrey Simmons became a dominant force up the middle. Harold Landry had a career year with 12 sacks, and then you added Bud Dupree in. And he was coming off injury, so he had to work his way back into the mix. Only had 3 sacks in the regular season, was a force late, and certainly in that playoff game. This is a pass rush that can be really, really good, even without Harold Landry. And I think you saw shades of that on Sunday. The problem was the Titans, even with some of those good signs, some of those signs that certain areas of their team can be dominant, still lost to a Giants team that no one expects to be any good by giving up 21 points in the second half, by giving up 261 yards offensively to the Giants in the second half, and by only scoring 7 points themselves. And so the Titans sit here at 0-1, something no one expected them to be. The Titans, the Bengals, those were teams out there. The Packers as well. There were a few teams out there that sort of everybody was banking on in various survivor leagues to win their games at home. And a bunch of them lost. Titans being one of them. That's why a bunch of survivor leagues have shrunk down to, 30% of the membership after 1 week of play. It was crazy in that regard. A lot of tight games, a lot of interesting results in week number 1. The Titans were one of them. But now the problem for them is it doesn't get easier. it only gets harder. You go up to New York, to Buffalo, to take on a Bills team that a lot of people thinks the Super Bowl favorite right now, especially after what they did to the Rams in Week 1 on that Thursday night game last week. So we talked with Keith and Jonathan Hutton Sunday. What do you make ultimately of the defeat? How do you bounce back from that and make sure one loss doesn't turn into two? And how much concern should there be about what has happened with this team in Week 1 and what the carryover could be?
We bring everybody back in here now. The Titans blow a lead and lose a game that they probably shouldn't have, and it doesn't get any easier, fellas. 3 of the next 4 games on the road, starting with Monday Night Football in Buffalo next week. Keith, what has to happen in the locker room this week to make sure this one bad game doesn't carry over into Week 2?
Well, you just have to get back to practice. You know, that's where it starts. Get back to practice. Watch this film. It's going to make a lot of the linebackers sick when they see how they were gashed today. But it's all correctable. So that's what I like about the situation. Look, they don't play too much in preseason anymore. So the only way you really get out there to see what you got is to play the game. And unfortunately, this is what happened to the Titans.
Now, the second half defensive struggles come a week after star Harold Landry tore his ACL, and the offense gets just 20 points while A.J. Brown's off in Philly with 10 catches for 155 yards in his debut. Jonathan, are you concerned about the personnel with this team at this point, or was this just one bad day?
I am, if they're not going to target their top players. Hooper, Woods, and Burks combined for 9 targets and 5 total catches. They've got to get their top targets the football, because if not Henry, who? The answer last year was A.J. Brown, and on the 4 big scoring drive offensively for Philly, he had impactful plays in all of those today. The Titans didn't have that guy. It's time for the top paid players and the top draft pick to get on the field, catch the football, move the chains, and help this offense, other than the run game with Henry, because right now it's Henry or bust.
Yeah, and even Henry, the magic number in his career has been 25. Got just 21 carries today. The offense, the team has to be much better next week in Buffalo, or the Bills will make them pay. A lot of questions about that offense, because Derrick Henry has to get going, probably in close to the way he went the last 2 or 3 seasons, for this team to have any chance to have a successful offense this year. And you need more beyond that. Robert Woods has to catch more than 1 ball. Austin Hooper has to be targeted before the final possession of the game. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine isn't going to be a superstar, but he has to be consistently available to get you pass catches when you need it. And those 2 rookies who were great on Sunday, Kyle Phillips had 6 catches, Treylon Burks had 3 catches. Those guys are going to have to continue it, especially given the production elsewhere in the passing game. So the Titans have to continue to get more and more out of the passing game. They got to build that running game up. They've got to find a way to make this offense hum a little bit, because it cannot all be on the defense to pitch shutouts, because you saw it the other day. Largely the Giants' offensive production against that defense was the product of big plays. Their first 2 touchdowns, it's set up by a 68-yard run by Saquon Barkley. And then the second one is legitimately just a 65-yard pass to Sterling Shepard. You take those 2 plays away, and now all of a sudden, the Giants are at 200 yards rushing. That's still a lot, but it's not as much as they had. All of a sudden, the total yards are down into the 300 range, which is totally acceptable. And who knows how many points they end up scoring? Maybe just 7. It just, big plays will kill you. But also putting the pressure on the defense that they can't ever make a mistake because your offense just is not scoring enough is a problem. And on Sunday, that was the case. In the first half, the offense had the opportunity, based off the way the defense was playing, to really give the Titans a stranglehold and take away all the belief that the Giants had. And they didn't do that. They didn't finish drives. They settled for a couple of field goals, and it was just a 13-0 lead at the half. And then they come out in the second half and they punt 4 times, and they cannot add to that. That puts a ton of pressure on the defense to be essentially perfect. And when they gave up the one big play and the Giants scored and now it's 13-7, and then the Titans immediately punt it back, well, now you really have to be perfect. And that was the situation the Titans defense found themselves in. Now, they have to be better. They have to be better than what they were. They cannot give up those X plays. But part of it is complementary football. You hear the Titans in that locker room say it so much, but they need the offense to be complementary to the defense. I think the defense will be better than the offense this year. That's just the makeup of the team. But the offense has to be complementary. It can't have 3 and outs. It can't go off the field and keep the defense on the field for long stretches of time. They have to give them some help. And on Sunday, they did not. Back to line 1, we say hello to Wayne. Wayne, good evening and welcome to SportsLine.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, it's been a while since I talked to you. I don't know what they're going to do, but they need to give Derrick Henry that football. He's the face of this franchise. That's going to open up a lot of other things for the offense if he gets enough takes. Now, it's going to take him a while. He is a slow starter, but he needs to carry the load, I think. And these linebackers, they are going to have to come up and support this defensive line on these running plays. If they don't, these good backs in the league are going to have a field day this year. So, I just wanted to run that by you and see what you think about a couple of things there.
Yeah, I think you're right on both accounts there, Wayne. For Derrick Henry, he's going to get the ball. And I think it was in the plans to give him the ball more than he got it on Sunday. The problem was in the second half, the Titans' offense couldn't stay on the field. In 6 second-half possessions, the Titans had 4 punts. And of those 4 possessions, they were 3 and out, 3 and out, 1 first down, 5 total plays, punt, and then another 3 and out. There's just no way to get him enough touches when that's the amount of plays you have. The other drive, the Titans were able to get a touchdown. They extended it. They even fought through a couple penalties that maybe were or were not penalties, and they scored. And then you had the final drive of the game where they got themselves in position before Randy Bullock missed the field goal. But for Derrick Henry to be the most effective, I think as he gets better as the season goes along, I think he also generally gets better as the game goes along. It's one thing to try to tackle 6'3", 248 pounds in the first quarter when you're fresh. It's another thing to try to tackle him in the fourth quarter when you're down by 3 and you're beat up after playing 3 hours of football. To me, Derrick Henry gets better as the game goes along, and so the Titans have to be in football games where they can stay with the run, preferably have a lead, and then continue to grind it out by giving him the ball in the second half, and particularly the fourth quarter. On Sunday, they couldn't do that because they could not stay on the field because they could not get a first down. So, yes, I think that's in the plans, and it needs to be because they need him to be the bell cow for this offense. But that requires a whole lot more than what we saw from the offense on Sunday. And your point about the defense is exactly what we just heard Keith Bullock talking about in Bullock's breakdown. There was a lack of a marrying of the defense on Sunday when it came to stopping the run. I praised the pass rush, and I think that front group, defensive line, outside linebackers, I think consistently they got penetration against the run as well. But for whatever reason, the linebackers were still getting met at the second level. And so I don't know if that's an over-exuberant line in times where they got upfield too quickly and that opened or further opened holes, or whether that's a case of the linebackers not being aggressive enough and attacking the blockers and getting upfield. But for whatever reason, even when there was penetration, there was oftentimes space if the running back could make a guy miss to get to the second level of the defense. And that shouldn't happen. If you get that level of penetration, the linebackers have to be there to mop it up and make the tackle. And it just didn't happen for the Titans defense on Sunday. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a function of not a lot of the guys on this defense played in the preseason. and that was essentially their first game in 8 months. Maybe it's a case of having a few new guys out there. I don't know what it was, but they've got to figure it out because this defense is supposed to be a strength. The run defense in particular is supposed to be a strength. And on Sunday, they set out to stop the run. It was one of the keys, maybe the number one key of the game on Sunday, and the Titans defense did not do it. And that is a big reason why they lost, and it's got to be corrected because Buffalo and Las Vegas and certainly Indianapolis with Jonathan Taylor, there are teams coming up on the schedule that will make the Titans pay, just like the Giants did, if they're unable to figure it out. All right, we'll take a break. Still time for more of your phone calls if you'd like. We'll also switch gears, talk some college football. Big weekend on campus as well. That's straight ahead here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.